Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the second series of the UKRG afternoon chats. We are recording on Thursday, 14th of May. I would now like to introduce Jacqui Austin. Jacqui is the lead registrar for loans, touring exhibitions and partnerships for the National Galleries of Scotland. She has worked at the NGS since 2015. Prior to joining NGS, she worked for the National Museum of Scotland, where she delivered a number of touring exhibition projects. Previous roles have included working for National Trust for Scotland as a loans registrar and several years as a commercial company as an exhibitions project manager. Also, I'd like to introduce Chris Stewart, registrar for loans and exhibitions at the British Museum. He has worked at the BM for 10 years and manages the team that coordinates international touring exhibitions, loans into the BM exhibitions, the museum's reactive loans programme, and the museum's national programme of touring exhibitions and spotlight loans. So Chris and Jacqui have agreed to field questions on managing loan programmes at this period of great flux, including the basics of keeping agreements up to date and managing risk. Our usual format is a few questions from the membership, handled fairly briskly. So without further ado, we'll go into the first question. So how have you handled the general programme of loans all being in flux? And realistically, when do you think you'll send your first loans out again?
Jacqui, do you want to go first or shall I?
You go first.
Oh, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much, David. So it's a good question. So I think we don't need to remind ourselves that we're in an unprecedented situation. It's a word that I've been using pretty much every day in every email that I write. And we're facing disruption across, the whole of the program to such a large scale in almost every facet of what we do. So obviously, there's a huge challenge for us to adapt and face this as a sector going forwards. But at the BM, it's been an enormous team effort across our collection care department and across all areas of the museum, really. So our approach to dealing with disruption has really had to be in a coordinated and sort of pragmatic way, given its scale and complexity. So we've tried to be as communicative as possible, but this has obviously been quite a challenge due to reduced staffing and also just the scale of what's been going on. So our immediate priority as a team was to sort of really ensure the safety of our collections currently outside of the building. And in doing so, we've obviously been seeking reassurance about security, environmental measures, and obviously, trying to extend contracts and insurance. But also a lot of work had to be taken to sort of safeguard, the objects that we currently have in for our temporary exhibitions. So I guess I'd just say that, it's been amazing really to sort of witness the kind of cooperation and collaboration that's been taking place, in the UK and internationally. And we're really grateful to everybody that's really kind of mucked in and helped us make these measures as well as possible. And then obviously, I think our second priority really has been to log the many extensions and postponements that we've been receiving across the board. I'm sure it's the same for you, Jacqui. So, and wherever possible, we've been trying our best to sort of reassure borrowers and try to say that we'll honour our commitment to lend as far as possible. But I mean, really, until we know when we can actually get back into the building, it's really difficult to understand what's actually possible or plan for it. So the most we've been able to do really is agree to lend in principle and to agree to these postponements in principle, subject to circumstances allowing. And so, in some instances where countries have opened up, we've been able to agree to extensions. But in general, we've had to really show self-restraint. I mean, I think the sort of general desire for registrars is to kind of leap into action and sort things out. But we've had to really focus on tracking these requests and waiting to such a time that we can look more strategically at our forward programme and sort of how these requests will affect it. And I think now that the global situation is progressing and some restrictions are starting to ease and there's more detailed guidelines, now is the time to sort of start tentatively kind of planning ahead and seeing what we can and can't do. So at the BM, at the beginning of June, we're going to be reviewing our entire forward programme against these requests and the resource required to deliver it. And we'll be doing this alongside all the work that's currently ongoing about health and safety and the guidelines that we're now having to adapt to really see what business as usual is now going to look like. And so pretty much everything that we plan and do will now obviously be governed by the safety of our staff and our contractors. And I think we have to do this in a very coordinated way.
Thank you, Jacqui.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree with you that it's been remarkably busy with the quantity of requests, postponements, extensions that have come in. Like Chris was saying, we're trying to be as supportive as we can. We've agreed all extensions for works that are out at the moment, and some of those are running right until the end of 2020, even into the start of 2021, because actually we'd rather that the exhibition's got to be seen, and we may be in a better position to bring the works back later on. We're also logging all of our requests for postponements and date changes for works that haven't gone out yet. To give you some idea, we have a loans committee on the first week of June to discuss them, and we've got over 90 loans to discuss. We would usually have 30. So it gives you an idea of the scale of the changes. So it's been quite a job to keep on top of the date changes. In some cases, we've had a request to change dates, push it back till autumn this year, only to then receive another one to push it back to spring or autumn the next year. So we're already on the second wave of requests as people reformat their own programs. We've got the issue with being slightly more remote up here, so we've got to think about, can we get things up back here? We're already looking at what are we going to do when the shipping agents start, and will they be able to bring them up to us when they can start running again? In terms of, you asked when you think we'll send our first loans out. I mean, we've still got some loans in agreement for September, but like Chris said, we don't know when we can get back into the building yet, and so we are working with people where we can. We're trying to be supportive as we can, but at this stage we just can't say, because those loans need, in some cases, taken off the wall and then prepared and framed and glazed and condition checked and packed, and we don't know how long that's going to take, because the way of working when we get back for our art handling team will be quite different. So we just don't have a sense of what's going to be possible. So as we were saying, it's about communicating constantly with the people who've got our works out on longer loan at the moment, people who want to borrow, and everyone in the chain, just keeping in touch.
Just about that, do both of you have in mind a notional idea that as long as you're back into the studio in whatever form by date X, then potentially we could honour loans that are due out in October or whatever?
I think that's something we're looking at the moment. We're looking at what the new protocols will be and what methods of working that will allow. But yeah, we just don't know what that's going to look like yet, unfortunately. And being in Scotland, again, we've got a slightly different thing. I know there's been a roadmap published for the English sort of museum and gallery sector with some indication of dates, but we don't have that yet.
And yeah, I think quite the same as you, Jacqui. We're looking forward to our summer and autumn program, which is obviously very, very busy. And we're the most that we can do at the moment while the work is ongoing about how our collection management and preparation will be affected by these new guidelines. The most that we can do is really take stock of how much work would be required to deliver each individual loan, and we're looking at each one on a case-by-case basis in collaboration with our conservators and our collection managers to understand what the scale of resourcing requirements are versus the amount of time based upon maybe if we went back in 3 months time or 6 months time. We're trying to forecast ahead to understand what volume of our current program we can deliver. And of course, while we're doing that work, those loans are potentially being rescheduled. So it's a continual process to sort of pin down what is actually going to happen.
Yes, I found that I'm continually writing reports about where we are. Nearly every week there's a new report. Where are we with the loans? When we started this in March, we obviously had a lot of loans that were meant to go out in April, May, June, and they have just all dropped away as people withdrew the loans or postponed them. But it's constantly updating. What do we think we've got as a loans program? Do we think we know when we're getting in? How many have been withdrawn now? Where have they all been pushed to? Because the postponements, while we want to support them, they're all now sitting, a lot of them, later in the year, where we've already got other things planned. And like you say, we've got our own program to think about, and we're still trying to figure out what that will be.
I move on to you were mentioning about the when you go back and the modes of working. And that leads us on to the next question, really, which is, so how will you handle the logistics of the loans starting to be recovered from loan venues? And will your team continue to work from home generally, apart from hands-on tasks?
So I guess the short and simple answer to that question for me is really in close cooperation with all sorts of people. So with the fine art agents, with borrowers, with other lenders in the UK to the same exhibition, and really by consulting sources of expertise, because this is the best way really that we can sort of manage the risks associated with what we do. And I think that's what Carol said in her video. She was saying that, you know, all the kind of standards that we work to are the same, but you know, potentially going forward, the risks might be greater, and we have to find new ways to kind of tackle them. So really, we have to collaborate and we have to coordinate our approach. I'm not really at the moment really understanding of the timescale by which people will return to work. But I guess what I can say is that, you know, we, as a team, and my team and other kind of coordinators in the museum, my colleague Helen Merritt's team, we've really proven ourselves to be quite effective coordinators when working from home. So I imagine work will begin, you know, long before we're able to get back in the building, on how we might start to prepare for objects returning. And I think that will have to happen in tandem with speaking with transport agents and other lenders. I guess for Jacqui as well, I'm sure the big question that we're all trying to look at and answer in terms of risk management is the question of couriering. And I was listening to various other people talk about this week. So what we're currently doing at the moment is we're reviewing loans currently out of the building, and we're again speaking to conservators, curators, collection managers who know those objects really well, and we're trying to identify the risks, you know, in quite a detailed way of you know, involved in handling those objects. And we're also looking quite closely at our courier reports, because what we want to do really is build a picture of, you know, what challenges there are in terms of handling the objects, but also what challenges were encountered during the installations. And in doing so, we're then best placed to sort of liaise with transport agents and kind of understand how they are adapting to the new guidelines and sort of what this means to our ability to send couriers, and if we need to send couriers. And of course, you know, along the way, we'll have to speak with Arts Council or NSA to really make sure that what measures we're putting in place are meeting those GIS guidelines, Annex D and E, that we all kind of, you know, work to. And I think also we'll have to adapt as we go along to updated guidance. So we've received, you know, we've seen the operating guidance issued by government. I guess we have in you know, over here, maybe not in Scotland, but I'm sure also the DCMS task force will be updating this guidance specifically for our sector as well, and I'm sure we'll feed into that. But I guess also just to say, I think it's fair to say, you know, in general terms, where we can supervise deinstallations remotely, you know, we will look at doing so. And I think where we can rely on shared courier responsibilities to reduce the amount of people going to places, we'll do that as well. And we'll have to work closely and collaborate with venues and also with our transport agents to, you know, manage the risk to our objects, but also to our staff as well, which is really the key thing here. And I think, just to reiterate, I think it's never been more important really for us as UK lenders to really consult with each other. And I think probably what's most helpful for borrowers who have our objects that are arranging for their return is having quite a coordinated and you know, reply from all UK venues that are actually have objects abroad, so we can have a consistent message about what we require. I think that's never been more important. But as I said before, I think we have to look at everything case by case, and we can't simply say that we will do something without looking at the objects and looking at the actual kind of tangible risks.
Yes, no, we are looking at actually and in discussion about a return at the moment, which is the first sort of approach we've had to someone who is really keen to press forward and return. These are works that have been out for some time. The show closed and they've been in store. So I'm in discussions again. The shipping agents are going to be key. What can they do? You know, what should they be doing? You know, they may not be. They've always been there to, I know, to do sort of emergency things, but you know, is this an emergency? No, it's just someone would like, you know, they're keen to return it. But I think, as Robert Graham said in the UKRG the session the other day, you know, that from a commercial insurance point of view, you should try, where it's not putting the object at risk, to get the works back, you know, to us. Now, it may be that in this case, we can only get them as far as the agent's store because we're still in lockdown. So we can't take delivery for works at the moment, or certainly as soon as they're hoping to come back. So, but there are other lenders, as you say. So I'm talking to other lenders. So we're in agreement about the best way forward for these. Obviously, there's no question of sending a courier. So we need to be quite sure on managing the risk and the airport supervision at either end. I mean, this may be the start of the demise of the courier. I don't know. There've been lots of discussions about, you know, reducing courier travel for sustainability and financial reasons for many years. And maybe this is where virtual, as you say, virtual technologies that would allow you to virtually attend an installation might start coming to the fore. In terms of when will we be back, you know, in the office, I really don't know. We are quite well set up with our roles to work from home. We have remote access to our collections management databases and our HR systems and all these sort of things. But obviously, we can't take artworks in until someone is physically there to receive them. But I think it'll be a mix going forward. I can't see that we will all suddenly go back to the office. I think there may be, you know, people going in as and when going into the office is necessary to do the job. But in the meantime, probably I'm still going to be in my kitchen.
Thank you. So the next question has been submitted directly from the previous Twitter Q&A that we had. And it's just, it is a question on the specifics, really, on the particular requirements of managing what we're faced with at the moment. So is it important to update agreements for objects currently on loan, for example, to add flexible return dates or new storage requirements now that objects will be in the partner museum for so much longer? And to follow on from that, how are you handling signing loan agreements remotely or virtually?
Jacqui, do you want to go first, or shall I?
Okay, I'll take this one. Well, I'm hoping that this is going to be an opportunity where we can move from wet signatures on loan agreements being posted to move to electronic signatures and, you know, being able to accept those emailed back and forward, rather than us being in a situation where we're still getting DHL packages from across the world. But yeah, I mean, I'm working from home, but I don't have a printer. I don't have access to printer. My local post office is closed, so no, we're not doing any hard copy loan agreements. We have electronic signatures, so we are using them where there is the necessity for signature. But we've got an in-house lawyer who we've consulted with this, and caveat, this is Scots law, so I don't know how this works in England, but we have got a workaround where it requires a signature, where you've only got an electronic signature you can append, or you can even just type your name in, and then there's a form of words that go with it to say that acts as a signature. So we've got that to use. We're not reissuing loan agreements for extensions. Even out with COVID, we wouldn't usually reissue a loan agreement for extension that may just be a couple of weeks because they want to change the end date. We'll take the email chain as confirmation of what we've agreed in terms of interim storage or things like that. But yes, I'm hoping this is an opportunity to move to a more paperless way of doing things.
I think, so quite similar to what you're saying, Jacqui, but just to talk specifically about what we've done, we think it's quite important to have an updated contract. And I think because sort of across the board, this is sort of one of the principal ways really that we can sort of manage risk in one place. And obviously, I think there are obviously implications with insurance should there ever be any kind of litigation, or, you know, having that contract in place is quite an important and robust thing. But what we have quite a lot of reactive loans currently out the building, and obviously lots of other stuff going on. So we've had to try and find a way of managing that, considering we're sort of reduced in number at the moment. So what we've done is we've extended all of our contracts to the 1st of July. And we've informed basically across our program that we'll be in touch to discuss extensions if necessary, to those contracts in June. But we've done it all to the same date. So we basically have a rolling program of extensions. So administratively, that's a bit neater, and it means that we can, you know, sign them all in one block and send them all out. I think that means that we can sort of do it incrementally. And I think one of the big issues, obviously, with commercial insurance is the premiums. And obviously, we want to ensure that we're not kind of asking our borrowers to incur, you know, additional costs if there are any, needlessly. So that's why we're doing it that way. But we've issued a contract variation, which is how we managed it. And we did a few things to tweak it specifically for this situation. So we've extended our loans to, say, the 1st of July, but we've also said that it can be another period mutually agreed in writing between the parties. So that allows us to cancel the contract in terms of its term earlier than the thresholds that we're kind of, you know, projecting to. And we've also included a transmission clause into that variation. And the transmission clause is basically our best attempt to allow for people who are at home that don't have printers or, you know, can obviously kind of post things. And it basically means that they could return a counterpart to our extension contract kind of signed, and we can bring the two together and it constitutes a valid agreement. And it's not a perfect thing, but it means that, you know, in executing the contract, it can be in multiple parts. And what we're doing in terms of, you know, trying to make sure that that holds kind of water is that we're bringing all of the correspondence and all of these different parts to the agreement into one bundle. So it's all in one place and all can be found quite easily. And also it means, you know, for audit purposes, it's the complete pictures there, because obviously we're audited. And then also what we'll do, if necessary, which I don't think it will be necessary, but we'll see, is that we can always, when possible, have a new version of the contract signed when the situation allows. But that's kind of our approach to trying to, you know, manage this. But in reality, obviously, this is all about relationship. It's all about trust. And, you know, the response that we've received from across the whole of our program has been pretty amazing. So we're very reassured about all the measures being put in place. And, you know, it's been a really good kind of collaborative team effort, really, to get all this sorted.
Thank you. And I think just to add that I took some legal advice as well on the issue of enacting contracts remotely, and I hope that through the UKRG you'll be able to issue some distilled advice and guidance on various packages that are available, which will also have an application for touring exhibition agreements too. So thank you both very much for your time. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jacqui. Please keep in touch, everybody, in the UKRG. Keep checking the website and the Twitter feed, and please keep the questions coming to us. Thank you once again.